Hey everyone, and welcome to DCF Garage. And what we're going to do today, we're going to replace an air conditioning hose on this 2003 Cadillac DeVille. So that hose over there is torn. You can see there's some green R134 gas or liquid, whatever it is, from the air conditioning. So that hose is torn. We took a trip to the junkyard and we got this hose that, does not look torn. It looks good. So we got the car jacked up. Because the hose is torn, there is no more refrigerant in the system. But if you're going to do work on your car and it still has refrigerant, you have to go to a shop so they can recover. But in this case, it doesn't have refrigerant in the system. We're just going to disconnect the hose, replace the hose. Then we're going to run a vacuum pump, and then we're going to fill it back again with refrigerant, given that there is no leak in the system. So that's what we're going to do. That's the plan, hopefully. So without further ado, let's get to it. So first we're going to disconnect the hose, and it's a 13mm bolt. All right, got the bolt. So this bolt is not coming out, so I'm just going to put some penetrant, see if that helps. Just let it sit for a minute. Let's try it one more time. Okay, yeah, managed to loosen it. So I'm gonna push it and just fish it from underneath. As you can see, you got a lot of green refrigerant here. Now let me try to loosen this bolt, 13mm. All right, yeah, so this one came out easy. Got it out. Got to disconnect this sensor over here. Now I'm gonna go with the hose. I'm just gonna slide it down there. Try to fish it from underneath. So got it here. I just wanted to show you guys how you set up the gauge. There are plenty of videos out there, but I'm just gonna, show you guys real quick. Once you get the gauge, you're gonna connect the blue line, which is the low pressure side, onto the low pressure side. And the low pressure side the fitting is a little bit smaller than the high pressure side. So it's easy to distinguish between both. You wanna make sure that before you connect, the dials are completely turned counterclockwise, so the needle that is going to push down on the pin to open the system is up, is not pushing down. So turn the knobs counterclockwise all the way, then you can just connect. You're going to pull over here and just push, and you're going to connect. It's really simple. And then you have to make sure that both knobs here, the low pressure and the high pressure, are closed. So you're going to turn them all the way so they're closed, turn them clockwise so they're closed. And the third connection, you're gonna put it in your vacuum pump, and in this pump's case, it's just on the top here. You're just gonna screw it over here, finger tight, and then you're gonna turn on the pump. And after you turn on the pump is running, you're gonna turn them counterclockwise, and that's when you start pulling vacuum. I'm gonna turn on the pump. Everything is connected. And now I'm gonna open the gauges. So it's slowly dropping to negative. That's what we want to see. Make sure it's fully open. We're gonna run it for about an hour, and we're gonna see if it holds vacuum. So our pump has been running for an hour, so we're gonna shut it off. To shut it off, don't just shut off the pump yet. You go to the manifold gauges and you close both sides. So you close the high pressure side and you close the low pressure side first before you turn off the pump. Now we're ready to turn off the pumps. I'm just going to turn it off. And we're going to see if the gauges if the system is going to hold pressure. As you can see, we're at minus 30 psi on the low side. The high side is just negative. So we're going to let this sit for half an hour to just make sure that it is holding vacuum. So when we go in with refrigerant, this is not going to leak. All right. Now it's been about 40 minutes and our needle has not moved. We're ready to fill with refrigerant. I am going to add one with stop leak. This is a very old system. And then the second one is going to be just a normal one. And the third one, we're not going to add entirely. As you can see, the system here asks for 998 grams. I don't know if you can see, but that's 2.2 pounds. And each one of these bottles, so it's got 12 ounces, 340 grams. So 2 bottles is going to be 680 grams. So we're going to use a scale for the third bottle. Now we're going to turn on the car and we're going to turn on the AC. I've put a thermometer here and you can see it's about 79 degrees, 80 degrees. And we're going to turn on the AC, so just bear with me here. Trying to juggle with the flashlight and everything. All right, turn it on. AC on. And okay, so mode. I'm going to crank it up. Crank it up out all the way. And the temperature is low and you can see it's still 80 degrees. I'm going to have to change the setup a little bit because the adapter I have did not fit in the bottle. So I'm going to fill it directly to the low side through the can, and then we're going to put the gauge back on and measure it. Now we're going to start filling in. We can start seeing some pressure build on the high side, of course, because we got the low side connected to the can. So I'm just going to keep pressing and pulling it up. We can hear the compressor kicking in, but it's turning off because there's not enough refrigerant. As you can see here, we got 150 psi, 175 psi on the high side, 50 psi on the low side. I think this is still high. I think the low side should be a little bit lower. Just took a pause here for a second because I wanted to show you the R134A temperature pressure chart, and you can use this as a reference as to what pressure you should have on the low side and on the high side depending on your ambient temperature. So in my case, we're at 80 degrees, so the low side should be between 40 and 50 psi, and the high side between 175 and 210 psi. So as you can see, now it's close to 180 psi probably on the high side, maybe close to 50. I don't think it's ideal. I think this should be closer to 30, 40, depending on the temperature. But today is a very hot day. Now let's look inside to see the temperature. Okay, what we have now is, you can see 57 degrees. So it's not great. It could be the compressor that is not great. This is a very old car, but at least it's chilling now. It's holding pressure.
Several days later.
And I'm still working on the AC, on the Cadillac's AC, because it's not cooling enough. So with the thermometer, we're getting about 60 degrees Fahrenheit, which is suboptimal on a cool day. So if I get a hot day, it's not going to chill. So what I noticed, and I went back to the drawing board, and I got a cheat sheet over here. I'm going to show you guys for our AC system that kind of explains different situations. So high side, low, low side, low, high side, high, low side, high. So it's got several situations and what it likely can be. And upon further investigation, I came to the conclusion that got to do two things on this AC. There's no more leaks, that's for sure. But like I said, on the low side, we're getting high readings, so it's about 50 psi, and it's low on the high side. And what makes the air conditioning chill is the pressure difference between the high and the low side, because when the air goes from high pressure to low pressure, it cools off. It comes out really cool. So if you don't have a big difference between high and low, your air is just not going to chill as much as it should. So my suspicion is that there is a restriction in the accumulator. So this one has an accumulator. It's not a dryer. The difference is that the accumulator, I think, is on the liquid side, on the low pressure side, I believe, and the dryer is on the high pressure side. You guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I know that the Cadillac uses an accumulator. So we're going to remove the accumulator. We're going to replace, which you should remove every time you open the system. You should remove the accumulator / dryer anyway and replace it. Otherwise you might get moisture in the system. You're going to have suboptimal cooling. So this is, and it's a cheap part. So I bought an OEM part for, I think this was $12 at Rock Auto. And I also bought O-rings. So we're going to use new O-rings for whichever part we take out. And I got an orifice tube, which also controls the pressure, because I suspect that the orifice tube on this car is clogged, because when I turn off the car and the AC system turns off, I am hearing a whistle coming from the accumulator, this vicinity, which I believe it's either the accumulator that is clogged, or maybe the orifice tube is clogged. Anyway, those are two maintenance items that I'm going to replace. Then I'm going to run the vacuum pump again. Then we're going to fill the system again, which I had recovered at an auto shop. And then we're going to add new gas, given that everything is working fine. So let's start working on taking out the accumulator. First, we got to take out the plastic cover, and it's got a few tabs here. So you just press it down, take it out of its way. Got the battery cable here. You don't need to disconnect the battery if you don't want to. And you got another plastic tab there and another plastic tab there. So 3 plastic tabs in total. Be gentle with it. Okay. So there's our accumulator. To make sure that, again, your system is empty, that you had the refrigerant recovered. If it's leaked and it's empty, then you don't need to have it recovered. Okay, second bolt out. Now we can disconnect the lines. We're going to replace the O-rings, and it comes right out. So here's your accumulator. We're going to get this boot off, put it on the new one. The orifice tube is going to be right here, and there are some dents here on the line, which is the stop for the orifice tube. And I'm going to try to fish the tube with a pliers because I don't have an orifice tube tool. Okay, it's come loose. So the orifice tube, and I'm trying to illuminate, it's going to be right shoved right in there. Okay, fishing out the tube, and this is very, very clogged. This is the old one and the new one, right? Completely clogged. Just put some silicone in the O-ring, so I'm gonna go in with a new tube, just like so. Now I'm gonna push it in till it stops in place. Okay, so we're gonna go in with the old O-ring, and I got some silicone. It's tight enough. So I got the new accumulator, comes with these blocks, and I'm gonna put a new O-ring. I'm just gonna put a little bit of silicone on the O-rings here. So I had to go back and remove the studs from the old bottle because the new one doesn't come with the studs. So I installed the studs on the bottle and put the the sleeve, whatever this is called. Now we are ready to go in with the new drier accumulator. It's got the O-ring on one side, it's got the O-ring on the other side. Okay, that's tight enough. All right, we got the orifice tube, we got our accumulator. All right, let's put vacuum in the system. So let's turn on the pump. Now we're gonna let it run for about a couple of hours.
2 hours later.
And before you shut it off, make sure you close the valve first, both valves, high side, low side. Now I'm gonna shut off the pump. So let's give it about an hour. Let's see if it stays like that.
1 hour later.
As you can see, the needle hasn't moved. So we're holding good pressure. We're now gonna fill it with refrigerant. So let me disconnect it from the vacuum pump. Now I'm gonna add pag oil with the dye. So I'm gonna add about 2 ounces. So I turned on the car, got the AC full blast, 60 degrees here, it's the lowest it goes, full blast, and you can see in the thermometer, I don't know if you can see, but it's 71.6 degrees. Now we're gonna start adding refrigerant. So we're gonna open the can right here. Now we're gonna purge the system before to get rid of air. I don't think there's any air because we filled the hose with pag oil for the compressor. So I don't think there's much air, and as you can see here, it's full of oil. So I'm not even gonna purge because it's just gonna blow a lot of oil in my face. So now that the car is on, we got the refrigerant open, we're gonna start charging from the low pressure side. Come with the can. We're gonna add our second can. Now we're gonna start pumping the second can. Let's see if the high pressure starts to build. Going in with the third can. This system takes 998 grams or 2.2 pounds. So got the third can set up. Let's check our reading here. Oh, now, yeah, I mean, look at that. It is 43 degrees now. It's chilling. Between 40 and 50, that's what you want. Now we have the low side on 38 PSI. We got the high side maybe at about 148 PSI. And as you saw, it's blowing 43 degrees inside. So this is what we want. And that's it. Well, I should have done the orifice tube and the accumulator the first time I fixed the AC. So just keep that in mind. If you're going to do this, replace the accumulator and the orifice tube. Otherwise, you're not going to get optimal cooling. But that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope this was useful. Don't forget to subscribe and give it a thumbs up. Thank you.